In the rotting carcass of an industrial city, humanity suffers a grotesque affliction. Blood hardens into glass, and veins toll like brittle bells when they fracture. Those who collapse do not bleed, they shatter, their bodies unraveling into shards of crystal that chime a mournful hymn as they scatter. But beneath the city's foundations, buried deeper than steel and stone, something older still awakens, a creature whose heart beats in living glass. Now, Marcus Hale, a maintenance engineer in the industrial sector, had long grown accustomed to the stench of burning oil and the groan of failing machines. But lately, a new sound haunted the air, a faint, chilling chime like glass splintering in the wind. The first time he heard it was in the old foundry, where his longtime co-worker Joseph suddenly crumpled mid-shift. Joseph's body convulsed, his skin pale and drenched in sweat. Rushing to help, Marcus felt it through the man's soaked shirt, veins stiff as wire, vibrating under his touch. A pale blue glow traced along Joseph's neck, translucent and glimmering like crystal. "Help me," Joseph rasped. Then came the crack. His arm bent unnaturally, snapping not like bone but like brittle glass. Marcus staggered back, horrified, as Joseph's body fissured, splinter by splinter. No blood flowed, only a crystalline sheen spreading through his flesh. Within seconds, his friend disintegrated into 1,000 shards, scattering across the floor in a ringing cascade like a funeral bell. The other workers fled, their screams ricocheting down the iron hallways. But Marcus remained frozen, staring at the jagged remnants of a man who had once laughed beside him over late-night shifts. No breath, no blood, only silence, and the terrible hymn of glass breaking. In the days that followed, the city descended into quiet chaos. Whispers spread like wildfire of those who walked with chiming veins, who fell and shattered into nothing. Officials denied everything. Newspapers ran blank, but the streets emptied after dusk. Doors were bolted, windows veiled, and eyes averted as if the sickness could spread through a glance. Marcus could not sleep. Each time he closed his eyes, the sound returned. Joseph's collapse echoing in his chest, shards ringing in his skull. Worse still, on sleepless nights, when the wind whistled through the rusted vents atop the factories, he heard something deeper. A rhythm, a strange melody, reverberating from far beneath the earth. A thought rooted itself within him, unwelcome but unshakable. Joseph's death was no accident, and the plague was no natural disease. Something was hidden below the city, older and more terrible than rust or stone. And Marcus knew if he did not uncover it, his own veins would soon toll like glass bells. Nananiao, tea. The city hospital reeked of disinfectant, yet beneath the acrid sting lingered something colder, the faint tang of rust, mingled with the dust of ground glass. Marcus had come to claim Joseph's body, but the morgue lay barren. The record was blunt, patient fractured, no remains preserved. In the silent corridor, a voice broke the stillness. "You lost someone too, in the shattering?" He turned to find a gaunt woman in a white coat. Her eyes, ringed with sleepless shadows, burned with an intensity that unsettled more than comforted. She introduced herself, Dr. Iris Ward, resident physician. Without waiting for reply, she tugged him into a cramped laboratory where yellow light flickered over rows of vials. Inside the glass, blood was no longer blood. In one vial, Liquid once red had grown translucent, flecked with jagged shards that caught the light like splinters of ice. Iris raised it carefully. "This isn't coagulation," she whispered. "It's restructuring, blood turning into something akin to silica. No virus, no bacteria, as if the human body is learning to become something else." Marcus' skin crawled. The faint chime returned in his skull, echoing like a memory of breaking. Then the sound grew louder. From the ward next door erupted a chorus of clattering bells. They rushed into chaos. 5 patients screamed at once, bodies convulsing, veins glowing like molten glass beneath their skin. Then came the fractures, sharp, merciless, deafening. In an instant, their forms burst apart, crystalline shards cascading through the air, painting the corridor in a rain of glittering death. Noses scattered, windows shattered. Iris stood paralyzed, but Marcus dragged her back, shielding her from the storm of fragments. When at last the ringing dimmed, only a sparkling dust coated the floor, shimmering like frost beneath the lights. Iris's breath trembled. "This can't be illness. It spreads another way, and I think the source lies beneath the sewer veins, where the old bedrock cuts through the city." Marcus glanced down at his own hand. A shallow cut still seeped red from the shards, but in the dim glow he caught a glint of translucence threading through the blood. His pulse thundered. The city was becoming an instrument for something vast and unseen. And if he and Iris failed to uncover it, every heartbeat would toll like glass bells until nothing remained but a symphony of ruin. Nawa. Rain slicked the city that night, turning the streets into broken mirrors beneath jaundiced lamps. Marcus and Iris followed a faded address buried in the patient files. Samuel Kerr, a sewer worker, the sole survivor of an accident that had reduced his crew to glass dust. They found him in a damp boarding room at the city's edge. Samuel was gaunt, eyes bloodshot, fingers twitching as though keeping time to an unheard rhythm. When Marcus introduced himself, Samuel only laughed. A rasping, stony sound. "You hear it too, don't you? That ringing, it never leaves." His voice dropped to a whisper as Iris pressed him about the day of the accident. Samuel told of drilling into an unfamiliar vein of rock deep beneath the tunnels. From it spilled a cold blue glow, and then the singing began. Not human, not words, just the crystalline resonance of glass upon glass. His fellow workers froze, eyes hollow, until one by one they shattered. Samuel alone had fled, but ever since the song gnawed at his skull, louder with every night. As he spoke, Marcus caught it too. A faint tapping from beneath the warped floorboards, measured, relentless. Samuel grinned, pointing downward. "It's singing for us, even here." The 3 descended into the sewers. The air reeked of damp stone and something sharper, the dry bite of powdered glass. Their flashlights carved tunnels of light across the walls, where veins of crystal jutted from the rock like arteries of frozen fire. Each step sent echoes bouncing through the dark, and from the depths came an answering chord, as if unseen hands were plucking strings woven from bone. Samuel buckled, clutching his skull, muttering prayers that melted into melody. Iris clung to Marcus, her voice barely a breath. "It doesn't just kill, it's turning them into part of the song." Marcus stared into the blackness where the music swelled clearer, vibrating through stone and marrow alike. The chill in his bones told him they had crossed into something's domain, something not of flesh, not of man. And the symphony of glass was only beginning. Indeed. The deeper they ventured into the mine, the more the world above seemed like a forgotten dream. The walls glistened with moisture, streaked with veins of black ore that pulsed faintly, as though the rock itself had a heartbeat. The narrow passageways twisted endlessly, sometimes collapsing into suffocating tunnels, other times widening into caverns where the silence felt almost alive. Mark's lantern trembled in his grip, the flame quivering as if it feared what lay ahead. Shadows bent unnaturally along the jagged stone, stretching and contorting into forms that did not belong to the human world. Evelyn trailed her fingers along the damp wall, her breath shallow. She could feel something, an unseen rhythm, guiding her deeper, luring her forward with the persistence of a whispered command. The deeper they went, the heavier the air became. A stench rose, iron, rot, and something far older. The ground beneath them was littered with scraps of rusted tools, helmets split down the middle, skeletal remains half buried in shale. Time had not eroded the violence etched into those bones. Some still bore the marks of desperate clawing, as if the miners had tried to tear through the earth itself in their final moments. Then came the sound. A low murmur at first, indistinct, like wind brushing against the stone. But it grew. Layer upon layer of voices, men, women, children, rising in a chorus too vast to belong to the living. They spoke in a tongue neither Evelyn nor Mark could comprehend, yet the meaning slithered through their minds, bypassing reason. Surrender. Become. Join us. Mark pressed his palms to his ears, but the voices only grew louder, drilling straight into his skull. Evelyn, however, stood transfixed, her eyes glazed, her lips parting as if to echo the chant. Her lantern light flickered, nearly extinguished, and in the dim glow, the walls began to move. Faces, countless, twisted, agonized, pressed outward from the rock, their mouths opening and closing in unison with the voices. The descent had ceased to be a path. It was no longer a mine but a threshold, and whatever awaited below was not content to remain buried. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness. The air churned, thick and suffocating, as if the mine itself had begun to breathe. In the center lay a pit, a wound in the earth, glowing faintly with a light that was not fire, but something raw, primordial. The voices rose from it, a deafening storm of whispers that battered the walls and rattled the bones of the dead. Evelyn stumbled forward, drawn to the edge, her eyes reflecting the pit's glow. Mark grabbed her arm, pulling her back with all his strength, but she resisted, her face slack and unrecognizable, as though something else had claimed her. The ground quaked beneath them, shards of stone falling like teeth from the ceiling. From within the pit, a shape stirred. At first, it was only a suggestion, a ripple in the glow, a distortion of space, but then it began to take form. Vast limbs, slick with black ichor, reached upward, and a face, eyeless yet seeing, pressed against the veil that separated earth from the void. Its mouth opened, and the chamber filled with a sound that was not a roar, but the breaking of worlds. Mark's lantern shattered. Darkness swallowed them, save for the pit's sickly glow. He dragged Evelyn away, her feet dragging. Her voice now a chorus that matched the whispers. She screamed words not her own, each syllable striking him like a blade. The chamber tilted, reality itself buckling under the weight of what clawed its way free. They ran, through collapsing tunnels, past walls that bled shadows, past bones that reached out with grasping fingers. Behind them, the pit widened, its glow spilling through the mine like veins of fire. The voices swelled to a crescendo, drowning out thought, drowning out fear, until all that remained was surrender. At the final passage, Mark forced Evelyn ahead of him, shoving her through the narrow gap. He turned back once, just long enough to see the rising form fill the chamber, its countless mouths opening in unison. His scream joined theirs as the earth swallowed him whole. Above ground, Evelyn collapsed on the barren soil. The mine sealed itself with a thunderous roar, leaving only silence in its wake. But in her chest, the whispers lived on, soft, steady, patient. The awakening had begun. Ow.